Hello, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a bit of discourse on Reddit and Twitter recently about the current state of Star Rail's meta. As you all know, that isn't an entirely uncommon occurrence, and there's been definitely more stupid arguments on Twitter, and I usually ignore those. But this is a pretty interesting observation that I think shows the symptoms of the current meta that we have today in such a small, debatably hidden detail. Let's talk about aptitude trials and how it connects to the current state of the meta as a symptom of its changes, whether you like those changes or not. First of all, you probably didn't understand what I even said. Aptitude trials are character trials, quite simply. It's an environment which you can test out a character in battle and give you jades so you feel forced to do it. This is pretty much an industry standard, as it not only benefits the customer to see exactly if they like a character's overall presentation or not, but also as a way for the company to advertise their product and lure you into it with a showcase of their damage, animations, and combat. In Star Rail's case, and many other gacha games, trials are only something you do once and forget it ever happened. But, like the title suggests, character trials expose the nature of endgame in a gacha, either through intended dev interactions or the imbalances a meta has over time. Let's look at the first limited banner trial in Star Rail and the 4-star trials. Zila at E0S1 with a March 7th. The other 4-star trials at most had physical MC, which is a free 5-star character. From the start, they had the limited character with their signature at a baseline, but it is fair to note that Zila does have a good free 5-star LC that she can use. And the state of limited Lycons back then was quite different to now, where characters had multiple LC choices that weren't too far off from their signature. Nowadays, if you miss the signature of a character, you definitely feel it. But to get back on topic, the format of character trials was pretty fair at the start. A limited 5-star with their limited LC, and free units that could support them. If we were to reference the cost system, every trial was at most a 2 cost, and during this period having a 2 cost can lead you to an endgame clear pretty well. Our expectation for unit power to clear endgame was not that high, and honestly the biggest issue was always the power of sustains. Can you guess when this eventually ended? When did they push for multiple 5-stars in a single trial, limited or not? Surprisingly, it isn't Blade with Bronya or Topaz with Clara. It was Dr. Ratio with Japard. This was a bit confusing since Japard does hold trends to give Ratio a debuff. But if we're being technical, Fire MC is a much more accessible character and would have done this job much better. Putting in Gwynaifen with Natasha wouldn't hurt too, just to make Ratio functional. I do believe during 1.4, 2 patches before Ratio's release, Day 1 players started to get their 300 standard pull to get the free standard of their choice. Japard was obviously a top contender for the selector, that it wasn't offensive that standard characters were part of a trial, much less Japard. But it does mirror how standards started to become normalized for every account once the 300 pull threshold started to become easier to achieve. As a fun note, after Dr. Ratio being paired up with a male standard character, the next time a standard character would be with a limited character trial was Aventurine and Welt. Do whatever you want with that info. To take this further, when was the first time Star Rail added 2 limited characters in the same trial? Surprisingly, it's not Acheron, even after Zhao Cho on her rerun. Not Fei Xiao, surprisingly, with Robin. Not Bron Mei with any break character. It was Sunday with Jing Yuan. And to be perfectly honest, this was probably the worst showcase of what the HSR meta has become. It's kind of a smoking gun of how expensive things have gotten. Sunday could not have been properly showcased without a summon character. Sunday could not have been in a showcase with the 4-stars like Mutsa, Shui, or Misha, because Sunday's most unique properties involving summons would be lost on them. Guess how many summon characters there are then? 3, all of which are limited 5 stars. They legitimately have stuck themselves into a corner where they had to increase the cost of the trial just for a proper showcase of Sunday. And overall, I think this trial had the opposite effect and speaks pretty badly of Sunday. If you didn't know any better about the meta, you would assume that Sunday without a summon character would be pretty mid and you would need to pull Jingyuan. As much as we know that isn't true, it's not a good message to send that Sunday is more expensive because other characters don't need a limited 5-star for a full showcase. It's not a good message to send about the devs that they messed up the economy so hard they logically couldn't put enough affordable characters for a trial of someone so important as Sunday. When in previous versions they used to be able to fully showcase every character's full kit with very affordable options. Despite that, Sunday was still pulled very successfully, I might add. He's quite popular, but he would have succeeded in sales regardless. Could the company have not survived if they released Mr. Rekka before this as a 4-star Jingyuan alternative? Is the game really that cooked into end of service that we're stuck in a hole where 4-star alternatives just don't exist? I don't think so, but we have some more examples here, so best we move on and I stop ranting about this. Next, when was the first time they did 3 limited characters in one trial? Yunli, in a patch later, had a trial filled with 3 limited characters with their signatures. This one extra confuses me because at least with Sunday there was some logic. It was logic that exposed how unbalanced HSR is in terms of free options, but it was logical nonetheless. In Yunli's case, she doesn't need any of these 5 stars. You can use RMC instead of tribbie. You can use links instead of Hoho. It doesn't take much to showcase Yunli's entire kit with a cohesive team at all. They have a lot of options. Yet, they put in tribbie just to add more FOMO, I guess. Hey, Starrail, maybe a bit of advice. If you had a counter support as a viable 4-star in endgame, maybe you don't have to shove tribbie into 3 out of 4 limited character trials. But anyway. Oh yeah, let's talk about tribbie because I think this is getting kinda ridiculous. For tribbie, she's as basic as you can get, and I would even excuse using Pela as the main DPS for ult spams with Herta spins in the background. Or maybe even use Himiko with Herta. That would make a lot of sense, right? They're both AoE spammers. Yet, they decided that the appropriate showcase for tribbie would be the Herta, one of the best DPSs in the game. And she's so overkill that they had to spike their HP. We are starting to power creep trial enemies' HP now, I guess. I don't know what we are doing here. I think the trial taking longer because you had to pad out HP for Herta's overkill damage doesn't really make Herta look good. And tribbie needing a limited 5-star for a trial also doesn't make tribbie look good. It just makes the balance look kinda stupid that we're at this point now where you can't make any decent free alternatives for some reason. It's almost like they put in how power creep happens right in this trial example. The Herta is the standard of power now, and she overkills usual HP so hard, they had to spike it to match her power and prevent one-shots. This happened a while ago with Firefly's trial rerun, and it's happening now in every endgame. What are we doing here? And now we are going to discuss the most recent character trial which sparked this entire video in the first place, and the most egregious one. A full 5-star team with mydei and tribbie. Bro, at this point, please just make tribbie a 4-star if she's gonna show up at every trial. They're spamming a 5-star support in trials like she's Asta or Ting Yun back in the good old days. Oh, and of course, Hua needs Argenti for a trial now because there's no better alternative, I guess. This game cannot be costing as much as Genshin where you can't even spare 4 stars. It's kinda ridiculous that tribbie has been in 3, again I say 3 out of 4 trials in one patch. She's taking up the Asta role but as a 5-star. When things used to be good, Ting Yun and Asta were 4 stars that were meta. Please. The state of trials right now is a symptom of various little mistakes Starrail has made over more than a year now, and is also a mirror of what endgame has become. Yes, you can reduce mydei's cost on his trial, but you would be lying if tribbie being there is such a big boost compared to every other 4-star that they refuse to release for half a year now. Even though Acheron has an incredible floor, it would be disingenuous to say that a trial shouldn't have Jiao Cho at this point. The worst case scenario being being Sunday and Jingyuan is indefensible of their roster shortage. Why should a character be unable to show off their entire kit at the time without using a limited 5-star? I can almost guarantee on a Sunday rerun he will still use Jingyuan and not RMC on his trial, because they refuse to release cheaper options that would make sense for the DPS role as a summon character. And before I end this video and people think I'm on their side on a certain topic or not, let me be clear. This won't kill HSR, nor is it its downfall, and I'll explain why. HSR compared to other Hoyo games is more combat focused, but it's still not as ridiculous as some of the gachas that I've seen that has unsustainable power creep or even worse, PvP with a ranking system. Seriously, I played a game where 3 months as a DPS is considered broken. That's their lifespan. This game can still run 4-star only through walking on 6-inch nails, but at least it's possible. If you play HSR casually, these problems do not exist honestly, and with half a brain on pull plans you can still catch up. You may need to look at leaks, but you can still catch up. Of course, you have to throw away character attachments and see them as what they are, a product. This is not nearly big enough of a problem to kill the game, but I do think the current state of trials was a result of completely avoidable set of bad balancing decisions that have led us to a worse game than when we started. Not a doomed game, just to be clear, but just worse. To elaborate, I'm not saying this will kill HSR because honestly it would be really delusional to say that. The problem is that this game can mute every piece of feedback from meta players and still make a lot of money if they listen to the whales. This is the reality. Meta players are the minority in StarRail and every other gacha game. There's no downfall of HSR unless there's a Chinese political event that somehow forces them to shut down because of this. The balance of HSR is really dumb, and I think everyone should call them out. But I don't think people should say, and I'm not gonna give the false impression, that feedback or boycott would work enough to endanger the company when the majority of the player base doesn't have a united opinion to do so. Just check leak subreddits of beta buffs. People like me don't want broken characters because that will inflate HP later on. They're fine at small doses like every once a year, but not every 3 months or every character patch. But some people would still cheer for Anaxa buffs even though it will affect them later on when they have to pull someone they don't like. I'm not blaming those people for having a justifiably human want for their favorite character to be amazing, but Hoyo doesn't need to bend the knee to get people to like him to pull him anyway. They'll do that regardless if Anaxa is bricked or not. I've learned my lesson from this disastrous video reacting to the news of Hoyo buffing older units. Wait until they implement something before getting excited about feedback being heard. Genshin devs have got away with much worse in terms of drama. This is not Hoyo's first rodeo, and they will continue to make money with or without me and non-whales involvement. That's the sad reality of it. Even if I quit the game, nothing really happens. And probably for you too, that's probably the situation. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is kind of a cold shower type of video. Like, I'll still continue playing StarRail just because StarRail is so good. I think people underestimate how high quality StarRail is, even if its meta is a mess. The fact that it's so high quality for a gacha game will still keep me coming back, even though the meta sucks. I can still play this game without engaging in the meta. You know, that's a thing. And I hope other people find their way of enjoying the game too. Thanks to my members, Man42, especially for the unexpected... Whoa, why did I say unexpected? I mean, unrealistic expectations here. Thank you guys for supporting the channel as much as you can. Really, it's all optional. You don't need to join, but you get some members-only videos, I guess, so thank you. And for everybody else, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.